I'm going to read you this from a podcast transcript. Brian Windhorst, who has taken the world by storm.
God, he's on fire.
Finger-pointing speculation that turned out to be true.
Just a genius.
Incorrect.
Why would the
Utah Jazz? And he was 1,000% right.
Actually, before I read this, some people have been, I think it was Lebitard last week, did a segment. I just saw a write-up about this. They was saying, if you're wondering how much of a stranglehold guys like Schefter and Woj have on the league and their employees or their employers about just like how important it is for them to be the newsbreakers. Brian Windhorst is one of the most plugged in. You know, he's not Woj plugged in, but Brian Windhorst was like LeBron's beat writer 15 years ago, and he is super plugged in. He's on the Scoop podcast with Doogie once every couple months. We've had him on this show before. And the way he was on First Take doing the finger pointing thing and taking you through this like choose your own adventure, he knew 10 times more information than he was allowed to say is what it kind of felt like. Correct. And he had to kind of sit in there and throw out signals to people. Hey, I'm hearing something about what the Jazz are about to do, but I can't really report it because people are going to get mad that Woj wasn't on the forefront of this.
Yes. It's incredible. Because I think in baseball, so Buster and Kirchin still get tons of stuff, but it all goes through Passan, right? Like
Passan's
it's clear,
the lead dog.
Yeah, it's very clear that if you are considered the news breaker there, that you break the news. So like because Brian used to break news consistently. Like, Phil, you're exactly right. He knows an absolute ton, but now it's you don't break that. That's got to be a Woj bomb.
Careful.
So, but that was a I mean. Brian's approach that day was just surgical.
It was a masterclass in reckless regulation. I did see this morning on, I think it was Get Up with Greeny, friend of the show, Mike Greenberg, and they had Woj on just to, all right, let's, hey, we're a couple weeks into free agency. What are the latest stories? But they also had that, is it Tim Bontemps, who's he's an ESPN NBA reporter?
He's with ESPN, yeah.
Not an analyst, he's a reporter, but he's like a lower level reporter.
Sure.
And they had both those guys on set at the same time. And so Woj would throw some up, he'd color in the Durant stuff. And then Bontemps came in with his own reporting. And then they flash back to Woj, and he's just like scowling. How dare they would put somebody else on the desk?
I want him fired by the end of the day.
The floor just drops open like a Bond movie, and he falls.
Woj got a button.
All right, so here's Brian Windhorst on a recent episode of the Hoop Collective podcast, which is his own podcast. On the so according to Windhorst, the hefty haul that Jazz executive Danny Ainge garnered for Rudy Gobert has the rest of the league bitching openly. This is the word that he used, Brian Windhorst.
I love the fact that that's in the copy.
Quote, what he got for Gobert, this is Windy now, what he got for Gobert, which everybody in the league is bitching about, like, can you believe it? How could they possibly do that? I mean, I've talked to 10 different people who have bitched to me about that trade. Not only did they get all that stuff, 4 picks, 3 unprotected, and 1 lightly protected, and they offloaded $140 million in salary. So now Danny Ainge has moved the game again when it comes to trade hauls. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think of the rest of the league for the last 2 weeks incessantly bitching, quote unquote, about the Rudy Gobert trade?
It actually makes a lot of sense because it now does set the price of poker. So like if you thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and bid on a player I like and he's a really good player, but here's what like the current comps are, right? This completely changed that. So like if they are quote bitching about the Wolves, like that's a terrible trade, I will continue to not agree with that assessment. But if they are upset about the fact that now that they want to bid on players and that the team that currently has said players like, hey, the Gobert thing changed things, I do get that. Because if you make a major trade now and you don't come away with a haul that is at least close to what the Jazz got, I think you're probably going to be questioned. And that did not exist prior to this trade because I don't think there was previously a comp to this type of trade until this one was made.
Well, okay, people keep using the Gobert trade as, well, I mean, if Gobert landed that package,
right?
What's Kevin Durant going to land? All right, this is hot take alert here, okay?
Oh, boy.
Kevin Durant is 33 years old and has 4 years left on his contract. That's going to be what, like $200 million or something? So you're going to be paying him, what, 50 or 60, whatever it is, $55 million when he's 36, 37. He already has a bunch of injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
Gobert's 30, so he's not in his mid-20s or anything. But there are no signs that Gobert is about to fall off a cliff or anything like that. When you become 33, 34 years old and you've been that high of a usage player and had a torn Achilles a couple years ago, it is much riskier to trade for Kevin Durant unless you think you can win a championship this year. So to me, like I'm scratching my head. I'm not saying that Gobert is better than Durant, although there are some metrics that would tell you based on his defensive impact that he actually is a more valuable and impactful player. I don't know that I agree with that. But you trade for 4 years of Kevin Durant at that price tag, he's only going to erode age 34, 35, 36. So I don't know that it's correct to say that, well, if the Wolves gave up this for Gobert, then a team has to give up more for Kevin Durant. I don't know that that's correct logic.
It might not be, but I think it's proximity of trade, which means that Durant is probably going to be the next big name to fall, right? Like he's going to be, or I think he and the Nets hope that he is the next guy to be traded. And so I get your point, but I think the bitching stems from the fact that there is an immediate recency bias of, well, we've got to get something close to that package. And the majority of teams are probably going to say, sorry, can't do that. So I think that's the thing. Like a year from now, the Gobert trade certainly will have set a precedent, but I don't know that you would be up for the scrutiny that if the Nets made the trade today and they got, half of the package that the Jazz got for Gobert, I think that's the problem. Proximity of trade time.
Yeah, it could be. This whole thing too, everyone's bitching about this trade. The classic Timberwolves, even like Bill Simmons on his podcast 2 or 3 different times, just talking about how this is one of the worst trades in NBA history. So you're telling me the Timberwolves, who were one of the highest scoring offensive teams in the NBA last year, with major deficiencies, rim protection, rebounding, solved those problems in one trade, and now have, in addition to one of the highest scoring offenses, now have an ironclad, ready-made top 10 defense as well. And they gave up some draft picks and Pat Beverly to make it happen, that it was a bad idea. Or that the Timberwolves, who've been relevant for exactly 20 minutes since 1989, and are now among the top talkers in the NBA, that there's so many angles here that I could counter they gave up too much. Well, they gave up all those draft picks. Okay, let's do a review of the last 25 years of NBA draft picks and who's botched the most first-round picks. They already have their young star core group of players. I'm not worried that they're going to, miss the 25th overall pick 3 or 4 different times. So and it's like all of this angst because, well, if they run into the right small lineup in the playoffs, in the second round of the playoffs,
which he'll take,
it could be problematic at some point. It's like, it's the Timberwolves, you guys.
That's a weird thing, too, is I don't think people... So if the Wolves were a heritage franchise that had great success, and folks said, this trade seems a little bit weird, I think I'd sort of get that. Like, I still might not hate the trade, but I'd get that. But walk a mile in our shoes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there's nothing to protect.
This has been, and this is clearly a new administration and owners that want to make an impact. And I can't say I blame them. I can't say that Mark Laurie, what are you guys doing? Glenn Taylor built something here and you're tearing it down. This has been a train wreck, dumpster fire, fan base eroded. It's coming back now, but it was down to a very small group of hardcore Wolves fans. And I don't think it feels like the people that hate this trade in some ways are looking at the Wolves like there's just one template for teams. And there's not. The Wolves have been a mess. The Wolves are trying to gain fans. And there's been nothing I've seen put out about the 2022-23 Wolves guys that say this is going to make them worse. Like if somebody said,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, they dropped their playoff chances, I'd be like, okay, I'm surprised by that, but then what you're saying makes sense. Their playoff chances skyrocketed. Like everything about it. And there are some cases where I do believe it's in the best interest of a franchise to probably stand pat or try and build. This is not one of them. This is not one of them. And for all that we are complaining and lamenting what Phil just said about, well, but what if they go to the playoffs and a small lineup comes out and they just witnessed what happened against Memphis, which, by the way, if Gobert plays in that series, I think the Wolves win.
Yeah, like they didn't have a big enough lineup.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
And they certainly weren't tough enough.
I think regardless of the size of the lineup, too, there were just some things that happened in the second half of those games that was more related to their mental makeup and inexperience and immaturity than it was like the size of their lineup. But yeah, like Rudy Gobert would have cleaned up some of those offensive rebounding problems. Didn't Memphis have 19 offensive rebounds in one of those games where they came back down double digits?
Yeah. And
that ain't happening with Gobert in the mix. And the other thing, too, offensively, the other criticism I keep hearing is, I mean, Gobert's a guy that you just don't have to account for offensively. Okay. He's replacing a guy in Jared Vanderbilt that you also didn't have to account for offensively. And he's better offensively than Jared Vanderbilt because he's more efficient and he can catch lobs and all these things. He's a better pick and roll player and screen setter for D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards. So they didn't. If they were taking if they were taking Cat out of the lineup or something and replacing with Gobert, okay, wow, you made your defense better, but you just took Cat off the floor. They're not doing that,
right?
So I don't know these. I have a lineup question for you too, but we should shout out one of our friends here. If you think that the Wolves gifted the Jazz a bunch of things, you haven't seen the real gift here, which is a spiral light candle. Okay, if the Wolves had thrown in like 5 spiral light candles, then I'd be outraged.
Then the deal was done because no, the scent is so good. They're gorgeous. They're great, and in fact, it's family owned and operated, so the shipping is quick. As I just said, lots of great scents that will make your home smell fantastic. And as Phil just said, it's a great gift. Anniversary, birthdays, anything, absolutely fantastic. And for fans of the purple, coming soon, not available yet, but it will be soon. Judd's Purple Positivity Candle. That's exactly right. The scent, I'm going to describe the scent, and imagine this. Sitting on the porch of a cabin surrounded by pines and wildflowers with the promise of a coming storm known as the Vikings defense. Visit spirallightcandles.com. spirallightcandles.com. A lot of great options. They are cool. They are awesome. And again, a great gift. spirallightcandles.com.
A coming storm known as Judd's Cousins Takes. That's right. You will smell like Judd's Cousins Takes.
The Vikings it's the defense, man. It's a blitz. This candle is a blitz. Zero blitz.
So the lineup is Cat Gobert. This is after now Austin Rivers was signed for a veteran minimum contract when you were partying in your James Bond suit at a wedding in Iowa.
I saw that
Friday.
Shout out my Ducks.
Yeah, he's all in, man. He's got the Mighty Ducks, avatar now on Twitter, Instagram.
That's great.
So Cat Gobert, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, D'Angelo Russell, and then your bench right now. It's a lot of lanky 3-and-D guys to varying degrees. Kyle Anderson, Taurean Prince, Austin Rivers, Jordan McLaughlin, not really a lanky 3-and-D guy, but he can run a point as a backup point guard. Jalen Noel, Naz Reid, Bryn Forbes is the 3-point shooter that they signed to sort of make up for what they're losing with Beasley gone. And then the 2 top draft picks in Wendell Moore and second-round pick Josh Minott. What do you think? Now, I'm not expecting you to break down the Austin Rivers X's and O's here, but it just kind of feels like I like this. Maybe it lacks maybe there's one more big man you could bring in at some point. I don't know if Naz Reid is enough, but I kind of like this.
It's solid because when you get a guy like Rudy Gobert, you start to open up not floodgates, but things become more attractive. And look, Austin Rivers isn't a superstar. He's not an all-star by any means, but it makes your team better. It's a contagious fact when you get someone like Rudy Gobert, and it kind of helps set that market. I was looking at last night their over/under win total. So PointsBet at NBC Sports put the Wolves over/under win total at 49.5, which actually still could be low. But I mean, that's a 16-point jump from their preseason over/under win total last season against Vegas.
34.5. Yeah, 15 or 16. Yeah.
That's significant. They won 48 games last year, and I would still honestly hit the over.
46. They won 46, right, last year?
Yes, they won 46.
Okay.
So they're saying they're going to be at least a 3-win better team at least next season, and I would honestly put it at 50 right now. I mean, if you can get to 50 wins, it'd be an improvement. If you got Rudy Gobert, that's the case. But in terms of their lineup, I think it makes things a lot easier. They were so small last year, and now with Rudy Gobert, who's just a giant and a freak of nature in the paint defensively, it makes everyone's job so much easier.
So I think where I'm most intrigued by this entire thing too is what Finch is going to do as far as strategy with the personnel goes. I think he's really good. And I think he's at a point now with this team, and especially with hopefully the resulting maturity of going through a first-round playoff loss, that this whole thing is going to start to gel as a cohesive team now. So I think it's going to be... See, the Gobert-Towns thing... I think people are sweating that too much. Oh man, I get the two bigs. What are you going to do? First of all, Towns is a incredibly unique talent.
He shoots threes at a 40% clip.
Exactly.
Offensively, it is not a problem.
He is a freak. He is a freak in a very good way. Gobert is going to free Towns up to do stuff that if Towns did previously, it actually became a problem. Finch is a very smart X's and O's coach. So I think where I'm most intrigued is the building of a team that the coach is going to have probably, or almost certainly, an exact idea of how he sees things going in. So, yeah, I think they win right now, off the top of my head. I think 50-plus wins is fair.
I agree.
Not like,
49.5 is a really good... The 34.5 last year was like, really, feels like unless someone tears an ACL, they're probably going to win more than 34.5. 49.5 makes you pause a little because the Western Conference is going to be so competitive. But I think I'd take the over. I think I'm with you guys on this.
And they should not be a play-in tournament team this time. Like, I will be disappointed. I think that they should make the playoffs and not have to play in that round.
Yeah, how many teams in the West, and we have not seen the last of the player movement here, so it's if the Suns find a way to add Durant or something, but now they can't trade DeAndre Ayton for 12 months. But so just as rosters stand right now, how many of these teams are for sure better than the Timberwolves? I'm going to say the Suns for now, but Chris Paul keeps getting older.
Yep.
They've had 2 playoff devastations. Do they take a step back? But they won 64 games last year. The Warriors, definitely. They're the best. Yes. It's funny because they're probably going to be better next year than they were this last year, getting some young guys back. Wiseman back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the Grizzlies are better than the Timberwolves now. I don't know that the Nuggets and the Mavericks.
No, I don't think the Nuggets are.
Mavericks just lost Jalen Brunson.
I think I wouldn't say that the Wolves are clearly better than those teams, but I think it's a draw right now.
Clippers getting
at
Kawhi
the very
back.
least. Yeah. Although I guess my question there is, for how long? I mean, he is perpetually hurt now.
Or just needs load management days.
Or doesn't want to play. But I mean,
a week.
But the point is, I don't think that you can for sure say that the Clippers are going to get a full year of Kawhi. Yeah. I mean, he's an odd dude. So that might not happen.
So, yeah. So, and you guys keep bitching about the trade, NBA.
And think about this, you guys. The one thing that might be one of the most genius parts about the Gobert trade by Conley is this. There is a chance that he has frozen Durant in the Eastern Conference.
Possibly, yeah.
Because if you're the Suns and you're like, I'm not going to do that type of, Wolves are crazy.
Yeah.
Well, now Durant's not going to be a Sun. So like he might have actually frozen him on that roster for an extended period of time.
And I don't think the Suns can make the trade anymore because I think their big asset would have been DeAndre Ayton. I guess I don't know how they get him without trading Booker or Ayton.
Yeah. So who trades for Durant now? Like if there is a viable team.
The team that has the most ammo, but it makes no sense, is Golden State. Golden State has young players. They've got the Andrew Wiggins contract as a chip that can be moved. But if I don't know why Durant would even want to do that a second time. where they're literally coming off a championship and you just leach back on.
Just gravy
And if
train
you're
it
the
back.
Warriors, do you want to do that again?
No, I don't think I do.
Just do it the way that you're doing it.
I'm guessing there's a lot of drama surrounding KD that if you're the Warriors, you probably went through once.
Yeah, it was fine. It got you 2 more championships that maybe you would have won anyways without it. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
So, hey, later this month, the Federated Challenge is firing back up. Again, they've helped raise with all of their partners and their network $44 million since 2005 for Big Brothers Big Sisters, which exists to provide children facing adversity with strong, enduring, professionally supported one-to-one relationships that can change lives forever. If you want to find out how you can be a part of this great cause or become a big yourself, go to federatedchallenge.org, federatedchallenge.org. All right, that's a wrap. Mackie and Judd here. Judd is back from his wedding weekend, the first off day he has taken basically in 2.5 or 3 years.
And look at that.
What a stud.
That, by the way, in my left hand, just to be very clear, that's Dawn's drink.
I noticed you were double fisting.
Yeah, I'm not double fisting.
And I love that
That's
you
her
asked
drink.
for a photo and said, "Well, I'll just hold your drink, honey." And then you just do the pose and you have both drinks in your
I
hand.
was
and-
waiting, full
Pontificating.
disclosure, I was hoping that somebody would say, "Aren't you Judd Zolgad?" so that I could spew off some sports takes.
No.
Nobody did.
Not much in
Like, there
Iowa.
were some folks from in town here, though, and I thought,
Sure.
they'd be like, "Hey, you're on that podcast. Let's talk sports." So I was like, "Hey, what's up?"
It's the first time
It
I've
never
ever heard
happened.
you say, I hope I would get recognized somewhere.
Yeah,
It didn't
that's
happen.
never-
It was reception time.
Look what podcast has done.
I thought to myself, if somebody wants to approach me to ask about like the Twins or the Vikings, hot takes. I always got the hot takes.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah,
didn't
if you
happen.
see Judd in the grocery store, now just know that he's wide open to.
No.
Public interaction.
That's only Suit Judd. Only
Okay.
Suit Judd wants to be talked to.
All right, over
Where's
on
the time
Purple,
go?
over on Purple Daily, we're going to get into the Ben Lieber comments that have taken the nation by storm. Now, the breaking news that Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins maybe didn't get along all that well. So check us out on Purple Daily, Mackie and Judd.